Hey readers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I just thought I'd have a little bit of fun and record the mid-year book tag. I'm using the questions as presented in Eric Karl Anderson's video because I really like his channel. So this is my mid-year book tag. So the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? And I've actually had a good reading year so far. I am at 54 books so far for 2021. I sometimes don't make it, but I really do like to hit 100 books a year, so I'm very much on track with that right now, and I was happy to see it when I checked the stat. The second question is, what is your favorite book so far this year? And I've read a couple really good ones, but I think my favorite so far is Eat the Buddha by Barbara Demick. This came as a total surprise for me. I just got it because I thought that Tibet sounded like an interesting thing to read about. It showed up in one of those New York Times, what you should read this week lists, and I just got it on a whim, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I reviewed it on this channel. I'll put a link in the show notes. And I also went and picked up Nothing to Envy, which is another book that Barbara Demick wrote. That one's about North Korea. And she's actually got a third one out that I'm planning to track down. So, of course, the favorite must be followed by question 3, which is, what is the most disappointing book you've read this year? And for me, that book was Malice by Gwynne. I know that this fantasy series is really popular. I expected to like it. I sometimes just really like a chunky fantasy book, and it just didn't do it for me. I made it through the first book, I pushed my way into the second book, and then I just quit the series because it was not holding my interest. It was not making me happy, and I didn't want to spend that much time on books that were that voluminous and demanding if I wasn't going to be getting anything out of it that really brought me satisfaction. So I stopped. Question 4 is, what genre have you read the most this year? And I actually really surprised myself. So most years, I'm definitely a fiction reader. I really like literary and historical fiction, and that's where I'll tend to gravitate for the most part over time. However, this year, I've read a lot of nonfiction, and that's actually a really good thing. I enjoy nonfiction. I always learn a lot from it. And I usually read at least a few nonfiction books per year that I really like. This is the first year that I can remember in a long time that I was just really feeling the nonfiction the way that I have in 2021. A lot of my very favorite books this year have been nonfiction. So I mentioned Barbara Demick. She's a nonfiction writer. I really enjoyed 9 Days, which was a book about Martin Luther King Jr. and JFK. That was great. And I'm just reading a lot of books that really make me think about the world that I live in right now that happen to be nonfiction. So, hey, nonfiction, the king of this year so far. Question 5 is, name a new favorite author that you discovered this year. So I've discovered books of hers this year. I just mentioned her. It's Barbara Demick. I am definitely tracking down her third book. I will read any book she puts out in the future because I was really impressed. So she would definitely be a newly discovered favorite author. Question 6 is, what is the most surprisingly good book you've read this year? And actually, this one really did take me by surprise. Not because I thought that I wouldn't like it, because I absolutely did expect to like it, but because I didn't know that I would like it that much. And that would be A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers. Look out for a fuller review of this book from me later in the week, and I'll try to remember to come back and add a link to the show notes, but I really liked A Certain Hunger. So it is a book that's about a female psychopath who is now in prison because she has killed and eaten parts of several of her past lovers. And I just read it for the lurid, gross aspect of it, and I figured that it would be some cheap entertainment, but actually it was a really good book, just on its own. The writing is great. There are aspects of the plot and the characterization that I just thought were really actually quite poignant, and so I ended up liking it as more than just a cheap throwaway read, and so that was a surprise for me. So question 7 was, what are your favorite or most anticipated 2021 releases? I'm actually really bad at paying attention to what year a book was released, but I know what I'm looking forward to this year, which is that in October, Amor Towles is going to put out a new book. And that means that I will be really excited because I really loved Rules of Civility. I really loved A Gentleman in Moscow. That's probably one of my favorite books I've read in the last several years. And so we've got a new one coming out. It's called The Lincoln Highway. And I will probably buy it on release day and just devour it because track record of this author is good and I'm in. So question number 9 is, what is your favorite bookish highlight of this year so far? I actually think that it is... So I've been a member of the Book of the Month Club for almost a year now, and I actually really like it. What's not to like about inexpensive hardback books? But I gave my mom a 3-month subscription for Mother's Day, and I think she likes it, which is good, but also we've just started talking about books a lot more, and I love hearing about what my mom is reading and what she thinks about books right now. You know, my parents are both former journalists, so they're both very good writers, but you know, we don't always talk about what we're reading. And hearing my mom commenting on books and looking at the same set of books and hearing what she would choose among, you know, the books of the month or what add-ons that she's interested in, it's just really nice for me. I feel like it lets me bond with my mom in a way that we haven't before. That's just really nice. So that would definitely be my bookish highlight. Question 10 is, what book have you started reading this year and you still need to finish? That book is James Joyce's Ulysses. So I'm working my way through it slowly because I'm trying to read all the notes and really learn all the context and the references and, you know, really get the most out of the book. I will also say that it's totally a slog. You know, I typically prefer books that demand a lot from me emotionally, but that I don't have to decode. And so, you know, Ulysses is an interesting experience, but it's also just taken me a while, and I'm letting it because sometimes you just gotta take your time, and that's all right. So question 11, second to last question, is what's the best classic book that you've read so far this year? So I actually haven't read very many classics this year at all. I've been just reading whatever I want. I'm very much a mood reader. And actually saying that makes me realize that I missed a question somewhere in here, which was, what are your goals for 2021? And what I will say is I don't really set reading goals for the most part, other than I want to read a lot of books. It is really important for me to just enjoy reading. I don't want it to become something that feels like work, because a lot of things in my life already feel like work. So I want my booktube and I want my reading life to remain fun. And that means that I don't try to make too many plans, and I want to just let my mood take me where it wants to take me, because I always end up reading something cool. It's never disappointing. But also I think that holding myself to something that's too rigid is just going to make me feel constrained and therefore cranky. So I'm a mood reader. I don't have any specific goals other than to finish Ulysses. And I didn't read that much classic literature this year, although I did reread Dubliners and Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. And so I would say probably Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is the best classic that I've read in 2021. So that's just more James Joyce that I read to prepare to read Ulysses. And the last question is, who do you tag? Anybody who wants to do this video. I would never tag somebody and obligate them to do something they don't want to do. But if you're watching this video and I've somehow given you the favor to do a mid-year book tag, just as Eric Karl Anderson gave me a favor to do a mid-year book tag, then who am I to stop you? Go for it. And let me know what you said, because I'm curious. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, happy reading.